Welcome back. This is the second video in this series I'm doing about lining things up. So in the first video I showed how to create just a sheet of copy of paper with some guide marks on it. I've used a A5 sheet of card just to help me line things up, and then I've used my ruler to draw on some guidelines that I'm going to use when I'm lining up my dies that I'm foiling with. So in the previous video I was using this flower die, okay, and I started off using a nice long strip of foil because I thought, oh, I'll work my way down, that'd be easier. But now I've got lots of overfoiling doing that, so tempting though it is, I won't be doing that again. I then took to using little squares of foil and made this with the flowers all nicely lined up. I had 4 shims in when I started here, then I went to 3, and then for the last 2 I just had two layers of shimming. So you have to experiment depending on the card you're foiling onto. So the next one I'm going to do, I'm going to foil onto this. Now this is a page from a paper pad. It's glossy coated paper, but it's very thin. Okay, so for that I probably will need 3 shims to compensate for the thickness I haven't got in the card itself. So I'm going to try that, and I'm going to try this die here. This is it's a tonic die. It's from the Carousel box die set. It's for cutting a pattern into one of the panels that goes on the side of the box, but I'm going to use it here to create kind of a border strip. So what I do is I line up my paper with one of the inner markings, and with the marking goes across the top, because then I know it's straight. In fact, it's a straight edge, so I can go all the way up there. There we are. So that's my paper in place. Then I'm going to want some pieces of foil the right size, or just a little bit bigger than my die. So let me cut some of that off my strip. So there we are, my foil is just a little bit bigger than my die. And I'm going to put my foil down on my piece of paper that I'm going to use. I've also got a magnetic sheet under here, which should help to stop my die kind of moving about too easily when I'm trying to tape it down. If you haven't got a magnetic sheet, that's fine. I did the previous video without it because I'd forgotten to put it back underneath. Right, so that's my foil in place. Make sure my paper hasn't moved away from the guidelines. There we are. Put the ruler in place. That's what I could do with a third hand when I'm doing this. That roughly in place. Ah, now I can't see my guideline at the bottom, so I don't know if my ruler's straight. So let's move that up a bit. It's quite a long strip of paper this, so I've not got a lot to actually use. There we are. If this was a full A5 length, you'd want to make yourself a guide that's sort of the other way round, so you had more paper top and bottom of the piece you're actually trying to foil onto, so you can actually get some guidelines that you can actually see to line up. Right, so that goes on there, and the foil isn't sticking out far enough, so I'm just going to try and pull that foil sideways a little bit. There we are. Put the foil die the right way up. But that's a nice straight edge against my ruler. Move it up to the top of the foil there. Check that everything's still lined up. I'm going to have some fresh tape for this. small piece of tape. And one last check, everything's lined up. Take down the foil, the die, and the foil to your paper. So as you can see, I've got quite a long strip of paper. Let's bring my GoPress in and look at the length. So here's my GoPress. And if you look at the length of my piece of paper, that's as long as the GoPress. So I'm going to leave the end sticking out and put that kind of in the middle, or kind of a third of the way down. Yeah, about there. I'm going to put my double shim. So, failed experiment, folded in half onto there, and then one more, because I say I'm using very thin coated paper for this, and I'm going to run that through. Okay, so back from the die cutter, I did make sure this was at temperature before I went and ran it through. So there's my shims. Here's my, oh, the die's flipped up as I picked it up. It's one of the reasons you tape it down, because when you're actually trying to lay it down upside down, everything would just move. So, that back on the base to warm up. This cools down, it's a bit warm, but cools down quite quickly. So that's cool enough to handle now. Peel the tape back, and I always start peeling from on top of the die, because then I'm not going to damage my cardstock with my fingernail. Peel the tape, lift the die, let's see how it did. And there we are. So, next one. So I'm going to need another piece of foil, and I'm going to lay the back of my die on there. If I just move that down a bit from where I want and just use my fingernail across there, that just marks the foil where I need to cut. There we are. So, magnetic sheet underneath, line this up, my guideline. Put my piece of foil on. At least I've got my previous foiling there to line it up with. Now I'm not going to want these quite touching, so I'm going to put the foil so it just touches the edge. I can see where that edge is. I think I put that a bit too far over on that side. Just a little bit. Put my ruler on. There we are. Line up my guidelines at the top and bottom. Put the die back on. Now I can see the measurements on the ruler, so if I want to measure a distance from that previous foiling, I can do that using the ruler. But I'm just going to leave a little gap. And then I'm going to stick my die and my foil down to my paper. Hopefully you're getting the idea of this now. And then it goes through the die cutting machine. Now I'm going to do a few more before I show you this again, because I think it's going to get very, very repetitive. So bear with me. Okay, so I'm back. I've done a few of those. So I will now just finish that off. So just to recap, you line up with your, I'm using the middle of my three lines. It is important to remember which lines you're using for each piece that you do. So I'm lining up with my middle line, making sure I can see the line sticking out top and bottom. And then I want my foil on there, just touching the previous one, so it's just going to get one edge tucked under the ruler. I'm going to put my ruler on. There we are. Get my die where I'm going to be able to grab it easily. And I've actually found as I've been doing these, it's easier if I leave the tape attached to the die. Makes it a bit less fiddly. I need to move that foil over just a little bit. And the other thing I found that if I can't grip my foil, I just lick my finger a little bit, tiny little bit of dampness, that helps with being able to get hold of the foil. Because it can be really tricky stuff to pick up. So you have to either want to lay so flat that you can't pick it up, or be determined to curl. Right, so you can see I've got my piece of tape still on my die there. So I'm just going to use the piece of tape to place the die. Push it up against the ruler. And I did at one point have my ruler the wrong way up. And I couldn't figure out why my die kept slipping kind of underneath. And it's because the ruler was the wrong way up. It's got a beveled edge. And the edge of the die was slipping underneath the bevel. So, little gap. That's in place. Let's move the tape down. Take the ruler away. And then that goes on the GoPress. Okay, and the other thing to watch is that you don't get overly enthusiastic as you get quicker. Do make sure you give it time to warm up on the GoPress. So that's going to be a few seconds warming up, and then it goes through the die cutting machine. Don't put it straight on and run to your die cutting machine, or just move them from place to place. My die cutting machine's actually in another room in my kitchen, because there's just not room where I'm making this video to have everything. And it needs a nice sturdy worktop. It's a really heavy machine. So that's had a few seconds. My green light is on, so I know everything's at temperature. So that's now going through the die cutting machine. Okay, so I forgot to pause, so that's happened all real time. So let's pull that back. And you see I've got better foiling on that last one than the previous one, so yeah, don't get excited and roll too quickly. If you do roll through your machine, you think, oh, I've gone too quick, you can just roll again, do it slowly. Nothing's going to move, so you can do that with the GoPress, and in addition we've got everything taped down as well. So there we are. Quite a subtle effect in the silver on that piece of coated paper. So there we have it. Okay, that's it for this part. So I shall make another section showing you some of the other ideas I had. Okay, thanks for watching.